C'è la luna mezza mare, mamma mia, mamma dare.
Welcome, everybody, to Hollywood Godfather Podcast. And we want to thank you, all our listeners. Our ratings are going up. You are sending in your reviews, which we really need. We're told that by everybody. But again, I want to thank you. My co-writer, Pat Picciarelli, is here, who did the book, which is named after the podcast, Hollywood Godfather. Pat, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, everybody. How you doing? How you doing, Johnny?
Great. We're just going to do the show by ourselves to our audience because we forgot our millennium has been working 2.5 years with no time off. See, Pat and I have nothing to do in our lives, but obviously
this is it right here.
She has a life. So she'll be missing for a few weeks or as much time as she needs. And we're going to answer a strange request that I'm going to let Pat take the lead on it. The man's name is Ralph Engelstead, and you're not going to believe what you're about to hear tonight on this show.
Yeah, you know, when we got this request, we get emails all the time, and we check the emails, and this name crops up, Ralph Louis Engelstead, and I said, well, who the hell is this guy? And I never heard of him. Not that I'm steeped in Las Vegas history, but usually I hear of these people. But I'd never heard of the guy, so I decided to look into him. And he was an American businessman. He was in Vegas, and he owned a hotel called the Imperial Palace. It was a casino hotel like the rest of them in Vegas. He also owned an Imperial Palace in Biloxi, Mississippi.
But the good news about that, for our audience to know, geographically, the Imperial Palace was right across the street from Caesar's Palace. I mean, he was sandwiched right into the best hotels. At that time was the Dunes before the Bellagio opened. I mean, he had a choice piece of property, a massive piece of property.
He also owned a motel in Vegas called the Kona Kai. Were you familiar with that?
Yeah, it was a little further down. I mean, he was buying up a lot of stuff.
And that later became the Klondike Hotel and Casino. He also was the donor for the construction of the Ralph Engelstead Arena. This guy had some presence in Vegas. Did he maintain a low profile? I mean, not that it doesn't mean anything if I didn't hear of him. But
well, no, the thing was this: that he really was a businessman, and he kept to himself, which we're going to expose to our audience of maybe why he did. But I mean, I got to know more. I mean, I met him at all the normal functions when hotel people are invited and whatever. And me being somewhat of a celebrity, I used to bump into him here and there. But like you said, he was not like the Boyd family or the Gahn family or the Winds and people that we knew, even Modelitz, you know. But he was known. And
he also owned the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So this guy was very prolific. He had investments everywhere. But that's not what he was most famous for, as we come to find out.
Yeah, and him having all of those speedways and all that, they were all the things he was interested in for a lot of reasons. But as I said, I got to really know him later on in life, when I opened State Street in 1980, because he became a regular. And most of those regulars, I used to take care of them. I had just so the visual of my audience who hasn't had the pleasure of being at State Street. We sat 380 people for dinner. And it had a lounge for disco music. It had a piano bar just before you went to dinner. And then I took the building next door and I opened a casino. And I just want to set this picture for you. But I had 8 booths, a little raised from the floor so they could see better, and it was called King's Row. And I got that from all the big showrooms because anybody of any prominence always sat in King's Row. And when you went to a showroom, you always looked over to see who was in there. So Ralph had one of those booths, and he used to come in a lot. And this one night when I came in, I checked the reservations all the time, and I saw that he was coming in. So I go to my perch at the bar right next to the piano bar, which I liked sitting up there for a couple hours and greeting guests that I knew and go to the tables and say hello. And I noticed there was somebody sitting in Ralph's booth, but it wasn't Ralph. And he was wearing a hat. So I called the front door and I said, who's sitting in Ralph Inglested's booth? He said he's his brother. I said, okay. I said, but you know he has a hat on. He said, yeah. I said, well, we don't allow hats in here. Tell him to take it off. He said he insisted he wouldn't take it off. I said, okay, I'll go handle it. So I walk over there, I introduce myself, and he said his name was Bob. He's Ralph's younger brother. I said, we have a policy, sir, that there's no hat wearing on the premises. He said, well, I wear my hat anywhere I want. I said, great, but not here. I said, if you don't want to take off your hat, just leave, no problem, no check, whatever you have, I'll take care of it. He said, I ain't leaving. I said, excuse me, this is like my home. I run it that way, and I run it with respect, and I can understand you have your privileges of dress, but a hat don't do it. And he got really vulgar. So my Sicilian temper went to boil immediately. I grabbed his hat, and before I tell you what I did with it, he had this hat like Bat Masterson, not a regular cowboy hat, but not a cowboy hat, and the brim ring of the band around it were all silver nuggets. So he got me so nuts, I pulled the hat off him, and I start beating him with the hat. And as I'm hitting him, he's like getting these little cuts on his face. And my guys came over and said, John, you got to stop. I said, okay, throw him out. And we throw him out like a piece of garbage that he was. Not 15 minutes go by, his brother calls, and they put the phone through to me at the bar. And he said, Gianni. I said, yeah. He said, that's no way to treat my brother. I said, well, your brother came in here being very vulgar, cursing at me, and he refused to take his hat off. He said, well, you and I got to meet. I said, no problem. I'll meet you anywhere you want. He said, what if I come over there? I said, no, I'm doing business right now. He said, meet me at my office tomorrow. I said, okay, make it 1 o'clock because I'm out late. He said, yeah, come alone. I said, okay, no problem.
What the hell does that mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But I knew about the guy. He had a reputation. His office was in the penthouse. And he sat up there. And he actually had a machine gun on his desk. An old, like World War II machine gun. And it's building up to the story. So I knew the guy was nuts, and I could carry. I had a concealed weapons permit. Most of us did in Vegas. So I took a .357 and I put hollow points, hot leads in. And I said, let me see what this guy's going to do. And I'm still the guy that's wearing the suits at 112 degrees. So I got there, and my driver said, you want me to come over here? I said, no, don't worry about it. So I go up there, and he's sitting there, and he has a bodyguard sitting there. And he said, we Inglesteds don't get treated like this in this town. I said, well, I don't get treated the way he was treating me. I said, he got very vulgar, started cursing, wasn't going to take his hat off. So I took it off for him. Then he lays his hand on his machine gun. So I said, let's cut to the chase. I drew my .357. I stuck it right in his face. I said, you don't frighten me. I don't care who you are, what. I said, I'll take you out right here. And he looked at that guy over there. I said, he makes another move, he's dead too. So he said, whoa, let's calm down here. I said, well, I saw you reach for your gun. That's a threat to me. He said, I always do. What?
Can I interrupt 1 second?
Please.
Did this incident happen before or after you shot the guy in State Street?
Oh, this was before.
Okay.
This was before. No, so anyway, but he laid his hand on the machine gun. Hello.
Yeah.
What would you have done, Pat? You're in law enforcement.
I think you have to be in law enforcement to think to yourself, I don't think I want to get shot with a machine gun today.
No.
So I would have done exactly what you did.
Yeah, so I drew on him, and then he said, well, let's come. I said, great. I said, let me tell you something, Mr. Inglested. I don't mean any disrespect, but understand where you're putting me now. And I said, I'll take you out. So I heard that about you. He said, in fact, I really like you. I like you. I said, well, let's start over. And I put my gun away and I sat down and we had a nice conversation. I said, I run a great place. Everybody likes to come there. You come in, there's never any problems because we control it. He's, well, my brother, he gets a little hot-headed and that. He don't like to take orders from anybody. I said, not taking orders. He could have left. So with that, we got really friendly, and he said, let's bygones be bygones. I'll talk to my brother. And he said, I want to show you something. I said, great. So we go on a private elevator. We're up in the penthouse, and we go down below the parking structure of this hotel, which had to be 10, 15 stories high. We go downstairs, and we get to this doorway, and there's a big Schwartz sticker on it. And I said, okay, what's this? And we go in there, and he has a full museum for Hitler. Now, this guy's Jewish, and about 75% or 80% of the movers and shakers in Vegas are Jewish. And he takes me in there. He has Hitler's car. He has collections of cars from Second World War. And he has big portraits of all the, third rank. And there's a picture of Hitler in full uniform. And next to it, a picture of him dressed as Hitler. And I'm saying to myself, what is this guy about? Only to find out, as you did your research, Pat, tell our audience how crazy this guy was.
Well, he called this his war room. Now, to my way of thinking, he doesn't show this to anybody because it would have gotten out.
Oh, yeah.
The press. So he only shows it to his friends, and you're his new friend. He takes you down there, but that's taking a hell of a chance. There wasn't any time in history where Hitler could be considered a good guy. He's one of the most evil personified. Who do you think of? Hitler. So anyway, this room gets exposed. Apparently, somebody picked it up in the media, and now he's got a problem. There isn't any way you can talk your way out of having a Hitler room, which you keep hidden. That's the problem here, and particularly of him dressed as Hitler. You taking a picture of himself dressed as Hitler. Now, there are people who collect Hitler memorabilia, which is okay. It's part of history, and you want to collect the artifacts. There's nothing wrong with that. When you have a room hidden away with this stuff and you're dressing as the guy, you've got a problem. So he decides to back up a little, and he promised that he would rather sell all this stuff. So he didn't want to aggravate anybody or insult anybody. And he wrote a letter of apology to the Jewish Federation of Las Vegas, where he said, I feel what I have done, and I have to apologize for that. And he did. He stored all his stuff away, and he said he was going to sell it. So you would think, well, problem solved. Maybe he salvaged his reputation. That wasn't the case. You want to continue the story?
No, you're dumb. No.
Okay. He was having a party on Hitler's birthday every year, before and after this happened. I stand corrected. He did it for 2 years, 86, 87, 3 years, 86, 87, 88. He hosted a party to celebrate Adolf Hitler's birthday at his casino in Vegas. He featured bartenders wearing T-shirts reading Adolf Hitler, European Tour, 1939 to 1945. The guy had a sense of humor, but man. So because of this, the Nevada Gaming Commission fined him $1.5 million for actions that damaged the reputation and image of Nevada's gaming industry. He apologizes again for the parties, saying they were stupid, insensitive, and held in bad taste. Really? But that Ra was not his last involvement with things controversial, and he all involved around Hitler, unless you know other stuff.
No, what I knew about, I mean, I don't know why, like you said, because of the fact that, he realized, I mean, and he had the blessings of everybody, and one of his closest friends was Mo Dalitz. Now, Mo Dalitz was the token Jew of all of Nevada. I mean, he was B'nai B'rith, everybody in the world praised this guy, and he was very philanthropic. He raised an awful lot of money. And another thing with our audience, this guy had such clout, and he was Meyer Lansky's guy. Like when I got to Vegas the first time, I was told go to Las Vegas Country Club. Once you settle in, I was staying at the Sands Hotel, and I was to go over there the next day around 1 or 2 o'clock. That's when most of these guys were there. And who's there is Mo Dalitz, Perry Thomas. Perry Thomas, for our audience to know, he headed the Valley Bank, which was the lead bank, a Mormon bank started in Salt Lake City. And basically, all the casinos used that bank. That was the bank they were told to put their money in. And just to give you a little background, like when Steve Wynn wanted to buy the Golden Nugget, Perry Thomas and Sierra Construction put up her performance bond, which was like a $5 million bond, for him to put the deposit down on the Golden Nugget. And for the people who don't know, the Golden Nugget was a small hotel down in old Las Vegas, and Wynn was going to revise old Las Vegas. And they really wanted it because everything up on the Strip was massive. And the idea of going up on the Strip, first of all, that was Jackie gone and the Boyd family and the old guys from Texas that got there, who had all the Horseshoe and all those guys. And they forced Bugsy Siegel to build outside of Las Vegas. Most people don't realize the Las Vegas boundary is Sierra and Las Vegas Strip. Anything west of that is Paradise Valley. So all the hotels as we know it today, the Bellagio, Caesar's Palace, the Sands, they're all in Paradise Valley, not in Las Vegas.
How did Dalitz and Meyer Lansky and other Jewish movers and shakers handle this when they found out about it?
What he was doing?
Yeah.
Oh my God! Well, first of all, they sat him down, and he did say he was going to get rid of all this. But as you pointed out, added insult to injury, it continued. The only thing him showing me was a very rare thing. And there was a while where he thought maybe I did say something, and I did. Because of, my allegiance was to Meyer Lansky, Frank Costello, and these guys. And if there was ever going to be a movement, and this guy gone, who's I thought was off his rocker to begin with, I just said it casually. I said, I saw something today I can't believe. And the guy who's the head of the Las Vegas Sun, most people don't know this, is Hank Greenspun. Now, Hank Greenspun has been linked to raising the money and everything else he did. He was supplying arms to Israel. So you're talking about a Jewish advocate that really, why there is Green Valley in Las Vegas is because Greenspun bought all that property, and his son Brian and all them. They moved the Las Vegas Sun to. They own every media magazine you could believe and every hotel throughout the United States right now. That's how big they got. So you can only imagine the people he was playing with. But I'm visualizing is this guy Does he have Hitler lovers on his? What was he planning?
Well, years later, when these Hitler birthday parties are exposed, it shows that he didn't change his stripes. I mean, he's doing the same thing. I realize that violence is kept down to a zero level in Vegas, but I'm surprised he didn't get a severe talking to here.
Oh, he did, and he promised them. He promised Mo, because Mo reported back, and he said he had it handled. And to me, obviously, I didn't know where he was going with it, but I had an allegiance to Costello and my people to say, there's this crazy man going on over there. I don't know what he's doing.
You know what I learned out of this, Gianni? I'm going to stop having my Jeffrey Dahmer birthday parties every year. and all the stuff Jeff sent me from prison while he was in, we got close,
That's you're too funny.
I'm going to have to stop doing that because apparently stuff like this offends people. I didn't know that.
Well, I think Hitler mostly. I mean, he got a lot of publicity, that unwanted publicity.
I guess so. I have an interesting story. You're talking about the hatred of Hitler, which is going to go on forever. Historical figures fade away after a while. Hitler's never going to fade away.
No.
He was the devil incarnate. Anyway,
look at the amount of mass killings. I don't know if our audience really knows. I mean, how many people he executed.
Just out of luck, we're not speaking German today. But anyway, one day I was in the 110 precinct. I had just gotten there. I was a police officer, a patrolman rank. And I was in a radio car, and part of the 110 precinct encompasses Flushing Meadow Park. And part of that is the Van Wyck Expressway, which runs to the east of Flushing Meadow Park, and that's part of the 110. So I'm there about 2 or 3 days. It's a spring day. I'll never forget this. And my partner and I, who I just met the previous day, were driving up the Van Wyck Expressway, and I looked to my right in Flushing Meadow Park. Now, in 1939, there was a World's Fair in Flushing Meadow Park.
Oh, the buildings are still there.
Well, there's remnants of 2 World's Fairs there, 1939 and 1964. There's that big globe.
Oh, yeah.
It's part of the 64 World's Fair. But I look to my right, and there's these 2 flagpoles. I guess they were about 40, 50 feet high. And on top of the flagpoles, as big as day, are 2 SWAT stickers with German eagles on top of them.
Are you kidding?
Brass, huge. I mean, we're talking probably at least 10 feet across wingspan. And they're on these SWAT stickers, and you can't miss them. And apparently, these flagpoles were part of the German exhibition in 1939. And when they dismantled everything, they left the flagpoles up there with the SWAT stickers and the German eagles. No one ever bothered to look at these freaking flagpoles.
Wow.
And they're still there.
To today?
Today, they're still there. And I'm thinking, New York has a large Jewish community. It's got a large everything community. It's New York. But also a liberal community. And I'm thinking, if someone was to find out about this, drop a dime to a paper or something and say, they dismantled everything else, but they leave an homage to Nazi Germany forever. And I was there, in fact, when I was at the book party, our party, I was 2 years ago.
Right.
I was in Queens because I used to live there, and I drive up to Van Wyck, and I turn, they're still there.
Are you kidding?
No.
So why don't you drop a dime?
What I did do,
that could be interesting.
This book, Bloodshot Eyes, my first work of fiction, I open up the book where there's a double homicide in Flushing Meadow Park underneath those flagpoles. And I mentioned the fact that they're, Nazi memorabilia flagpoles. I figure people are going to read this book and someone's going to make a stink about it. Nothing.
And they didn't do anything about that either.
The book is still selling.
And your publisher's Jewish, isn't it?
Who knows? So long ago. But I'm just surprised that, I sold a significant number of those books, and through this show, I'm still selling them. And no one has said anything. They still remain.
I mean, that's so crazy to me that,
Well, perhaps
these things go
not
on.
after this. Not after this is broadcast. Maybe somebody will drop a dime.
Hell, they should.
Yeah, they should. Yeah.
Why pay? I mean, especially the Jewish community in New York City. I know the right guy to call too. I think. Let's get
And
publicity.
make a splash. If they say, as broadcast on a Hollywood Godfather podcast, a little known New York fact, so on and so forth.
There you go.
It always surprised me. I mean, it's a
No, I mean, I can't believe it's. And that was the first one in the 30s, right?
39. Yeah, 39.
39.
Well, that was when Hitler came to power. Just before they already waged waging the war in Europe, and we didn't get involved until 1941. But yeah.
So, I mean, because when I left Vegas in 81, I actually left. Wait a minute. I'm talking about 89 is when I had that incident in my club. I left 90, and never to know again what happened to Ralph Finkelstead. I mean, his property obviously must have sold because they expanded the Flamingo Hotel. Do you know what really happened to him, or?
Just passed away 2002.
And what happened to all his properties? You don't know?
I went to his family that they still own.
He had children?
It doesn't. In the research I did, they didn't mention children, but he owned hotels outside of Vegas. I don't know if the family wound up selling them. It's just, I don't think this guy was looking for publicity. I mean, obviously he wasn't. I mean, just being a hotel owner in Vegas puts you on the map. But to do what he did, I mean, he's a smart guy, obviously. He probably said, I'll keep this under wraps and show this to a couple of friends of mine. But the parties did him in.
Yeah.
After that, he was probably shunned, I would think, by the Jewish community in Vegas. I can't see him talking his way out of that.
No, but not only that, I know Vegas when they start stripping you, because I remember soon after the headlines. In fact, there was a major headline in the New York Times. I remember. Did you find that
No.
story? They did a big thing on him in the New York Times. So you would think that in itself would bring more attention on a national level than just Vegas.
Well, like they say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Apparently.
Well, it didn't. It was in the New York Times on a Sunday.
I know, but apparently no one cared.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
look at this. Try that now
hello.
and see where you go.
No, but they started dismantling his properties because they found every violation in the world. And in fact, I remember him going on the news that he thinks this is a harassment, and I don't know where that went. And then I just stopped following the story. I didn't care anymore. But knowing the B'nai B'riths and everything else there, and how strong and powerful and friendly the Jewish community is, I'm shocked he lasted that long. It's amazing.
Well, maybe he was making money for a lot of people, and they just gave him a pass. Who knows?
No, that ain't it. But anyway, well, whoever asked for this, do we know who asked for this story? Ralph.
There was an email from someone. I don't have it in front of me, but this is how we. By the way, this is how we get a lot of show ideas. So
Oh yeah.
That is on topic, and even things that are off topic. We go off topic occasionally.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a good point that Pat just made, is because of the fact that we read your mail and we want more mail. So if you have a show idea, please let us know, man. We'll do it. I mean, we definitely will do it, as you're finding out. And I just think it was so surprising, and to find out even more now that nobody stopped the guy even. So it's. But I think we should definitely report on those two flagpoles.
Yeah.
So without Megan being around, do you have any mailbags you want to talk about, or do you want to go into current events?
Well, we can do a few now. Let's see what we get. Okay.
You know what? Let's take a break, earn some money. We'll come right back and do a commercial.
Very good.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. And I'm so happy to be able to tell you tonight that we are expanding not only the show, not only how you can participate and share into so many different facets of my life and the life of this podcast and the world we created. We are going to expand our family. You're going to have an opportunity to actually join our family. And it'll be up to you how far you go in our family. By the purchases of things we're putting out to you, the opportunities that you can take advantage of, like having a one-on-one conversation with me, having me visit your home while you have 10 people for dinner. There's so many things that you're going to be so excited. Just go to HollywoodGodfatherFamily.com and it'll have all the information you want. And believe me, I want you in my family. Don't let me come looking for you. Okay, we're back with the mailbag. And we're missing Megan. If you're listening, Megan, we miss you.
Yeah, we do. Show's not the same without her. Yeah, you know what I discovered? Well, I'm a detective, so I look into these things. She's a lot prettier than me.
Yeah, she is.
I noticed that. I'm a trained observer, and I noticed that. And not only that, she's definitely a plus for the show. And we do miss. Okay, first one is from Courtney, and I'll read it verbatim. Hi, I have a question for Gianni and Pat. Did you know of or ever meet the two New York cops, Lou Ippolito and Stephen Caracappa, who were both convicted for working with the Lucchese family and both went to jail? Thanks, love the show.
Yeah, we actually did a show. I'll let you carry that, Pat, because that was all in your whole thing.
Yeah, I knew Ippolito. Ippolito was boisterous, big guy, barrel-chested guy. Used to brag a lot about everything, which is what led to their downfall. Caracappa was known as Dracula on the job because he looked like Dracula. Very brooding guy, dark skin, dark hair, always scowling, never smiled. And when Ippolito, who I'd met on a number of occasions, couldn't stop talking. His goal was to be an actor. He wound up going to prison for life, but he wrote a book called Mafia Cops. And he didn't tell Caracappa, who was his partner, for a while. Then they got separated. And Caracappa went to the intelligence division, where his job was to root out any cops who were involved in organized crime. So in other words, he was investigating himself.
That's wild.
You don't know the story. Ippolito and Caracappa were doing hits for the mob, specifically Gas Pipe Casso. Anyway, Ippolito...
Yeah, I mean, for our guys to know, they work for Gas Pipe. I mean, this guy was...
They were on a pair. They got $4,000 a month each. And if there was ever something that they want them to do special, like whack somebody, they get up to $75,000 per hit if they did the killings themselves, or even if they delivered the person to Casso. So they were, I mean, the most corrupt cops in the NYPD history, and that's saying a lot. The job has been around for almost 200 years. Anyway, Ippolito writes this book that Caracappa did not know about, called Mafia Cops, regaling his family's involvement in the mob, stressing to this talk show host, name was Sally Jesse Raphael.
Oh my God!
Quite a few years. That he had nothing to do with the mob, and he decided to be a police officer because he believes in truth, justice, and the American way. The whole line of crap. But who's watching this show? Then the mother of one of Caracappa and Ippolito's victims. Years prior to this, they came to the house to pick this guy up and deliver him to Casso, who subsequently tortured and killed him. Now, the mother got a good look at these guys, and there wasn't much of an investigation. I don't know why, but when she saw Ippolito on the Sally Jesse Raphael show, she said, "That's the guy who took my boy." And that's what started their downfall. And subsequently, after 2 trials, a federal and a state, they wound up doing life without parole. They both died in prison. But Caracappa, I know people who knew him, was livid. That, I mean, how do you write a book and,
Yeah, I mean, it's...
stay under the radar? I mean,
You know,
you know,
I met them in Las Vegas. They both moved to Vegas, you know,
yeah, I know, yeah,
and we're
right
so
next
fun.
to each other.
And not only that, they were every night in Freddie Glussman's restaurant, which is probably one of the most famous down there. And they're at the bar every night, like holding court. And I walked in there and they said, "Hey, you're that Russo kid from The Godfather." I said, "Yeah." And then they mentioned their names. I never met them here. You know, I was on the run, not on the run, but, you know, moving around and never met the guys, thank God. But they were, like you're saying, so blatant about who they were and what they did. And they thought they had a license to kill. And they
I tell
did.
you, there was uh, the feds laid a trap for them because they knew they were bad. They needed the evidence, so they decided they're going to send an informant in there to buy drugs from them, or one of the two of them, or whatever. So they go in under the premise that this undercover guy, this
This was in
informant,
Vegas later on?
yeah,
Okay.
that he's a movie producer, and they're looking to shoot a movie in Vegas. Now, Eppolito had visions of him one day winning an Academy Award, so he was all over this guy.
Oh, my
Anything he
God.
wanted. So one of the things he wanted when out one night, he says, "Yeah, look, we're going to be scouting locations. I can use a little something to keep me up, a little blow." So naturally, Eppolito runs out, gets him the coke, and doesn't sell it to him, gives it to him, but still, in the eyes of the law, that's sale. And now they think they got him on a continuing criminal enterprise. Only the feds weren't thinking this through, because there was 10 years since they left the job and moved to Vegas. So where's the continuation there? There was no investigations on them. They weren't accused of anything. So the case got thrown out after a conviction.
I mean, the feds, I mean, sometimes I
mean,
hear about the feds that I'm glad they were
it was,
stupid in my you know, on some of the things they
they were
investigated me
chomping
for.
at the bit to lock these two guys up, and they did a sloppy job. I mean, it's a continuing, stressing the word continuing, criminal enterprise to get locked up, to get convicted, to get your 100-year rap. But they got convicted, and they got cut loose. Anyway, Eppolito's daughter started a website with all good intentions. I mean,
Saying her father was innocent. I remember that.
well, like I was going to say, she's his daughter, and she's raising money for the appeals. They exhausted all their appeals, and Eppolito died first. I believe he died about 2 years ago. They weren't in the same prison. Caracappa died the following year.
Wow.
As far as anybody at law enforcement is concerned, good riddance. I mean, they gave the job a bad name.
Oh,
These
my
guys
God,
were
yeah.
forgotten for the wrong reasons.
Especially for gas pipe, because everybody knew this guy. You know, it's anyway.
Psycho.
Well, he started the talk about, but that's another whole show.
Okay, now this is a nice fan letter we got. Hi, Johnny, Pat, and Megan. Huge fan of the podcast. My aunt recommended the show to me a few months ago, and I've been hooked ever since. I'm early in the series, still on season 2, episode 3, but I completely agree with Megan when she says this podcast helps the younger generation connect with a part of American history and culture that they have no idea about. My great-grandparents migrated to New York from Sicily in the early 1900s, and unfortunately, I don't know too much about their history and general experiences. Johnny and Pat tell amazing stories and make me feel like I'm hearing it from my own uncles. Just want to show my gratitude to the crew, and I can't wait to listen to more. Thank you from everyone else in the Giovanola family. That's his last name. I have a lot of the family tuned in to either the book, the podcast, or both.
Wow, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
No, that's
so
what we
very
were
nice.
saying earlier. You know, it's and to have a younger generation, and that's what Megan basically attracts for many, many reasons. But that was our idea when we brought her on, to be the eyes and ears of the young people. And fortunately for us, that we've crossed now 4 generations, because we get the mail from all over the world. And again, the biggest gratitude you can give us is to compliment the show. We need reviews, and we're looking to further our reach with audiences. And so that's really a compliment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Salvatore. Okay. Next, can you tell us, this is for you, Johnny, can you tell us about the filming of Out for Justice on the podcast, please? I thought William Forsythe played a very good part. He also has Bruce Lee's training partner. What stories do you have?
Well, that was Steven Seagal. I mean, I was the only reason I was on that movie is because Steven made a pass. Now that's talking about intertwining. We were just talking about gas pipe, and gas pipe blew up this girl's father. Is that wild, Pat? Her father was Frankie Boy DeChico, who went out to the car.
Oh, that's okay.
And gas pipe blew him up, thinking it was John Gotti. That's a crazy link. I'm glad you didn't tell me this before. That's so crazy that we're talking about gas pipe. Gas pipe was known to bomb places and bomb people. They go out to a club in Brooklyn. John and Frankie Boy DeChico was an underboss. His father was a boss, Boozy DeChico, with the Gambino family. And Frankie Boy was the younger generation with Gotti and always was with John. And that Sunday morning was gas pipe that blew up that car, thinking it was John going to the car, because gas pipe hated John and everything he represented, because gas pipe was more old school. And
John stayed at the meeting, and he had his driver / bodyguard go get the car, which is what's normally done. Why put yourself out on the street for 2 blocks? They parked a little bit of ways. But anyway, what did this have to do with Out for Justice?
Because I got Out for Justice because Frankie Boy calls me up with another guy's name I don't want to mention, and he says, "You know that guy, Siegel?" I said, Siegel? What are you talking about? You know, that karate guy. I mean, Seagal. No, Siegel. And this was Gotti saying this. I said, I know him. I said, I'm going out to the airport tomorrow. He's shooting in Brooklyn. He stopped by there and tell that guy to lay off Mary Ann. That's Frankie Boy's daughter. And he was going to give her a speaking part if he could have her way with him. Well, fortunately, she got out of the trailer. She went and told her father. So now I go on the set, and Jules Nasso, who was the producer I happen to know for years and still a good friend, I said to Jules, I got to talk to your guy. He says, well, he's in the trailer right now. I said, well, I'm on the way to the airport. Knock on the door. So I can't do that. I said, what trailer is he in? So I walk over and I start banging on the door. He comes out like a Buddha. Who's banging on my door? I said, me. He's Johnny Russo. He says, yeah. I said, I got a message. Your little girl, Mary Ann. Oh, yeah. Oh. And then he steps out of the trailer. He says, what's the message? I said, well, John Gotti told me, touch her again and you're dead. He said, what? I said, John Gotti told me to tell you, touch that little girl again and you're dead. So now I don't know what he's doing. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to the airport. I was walking in the car. I had a car service taking me to the airport. He said, no, wait a minute. He's whispering to Jules. And Jules Nassar comes over and he says, Johnny, we have a part for you in the movie. He'd like you to stay on the movie with him. I said, wait a minute. I don't want to be in anywhere. I don't even know anything about it. So he threw a number at me, basically to keep me around.
Yeah.
And how stupid he was. After a day or two, he said, I'd really like to go meet John and apologize. I said, you don't want to do this.
He's well enough alone.
I mean, he's so crazy.
He's living in Russia now.
I know. I'm a good friend of mine put him there. Putin.
What's he doing? What's he doing there?
Well, he, again, talking about idiotic moves, he's doing a movie down south, and he picked on some underage girls, and they filed a complaint and got a warrant for his arrest. He left for a while, thinking they'd squash it. Jules, everybody met the family, no good. So now he wants to go to Russia because he heard Putin, he's onto that karate stuff. So I sent a message with Putin's girl. I used to see her all the time. She's the secretary here for Russia, but she was in Nellis all the time. So she sends the message. The next thing I know, he's over there, and they make him a citizen of Russia. He gave up his American passport. He can never come back here. And now I just found out from my same source that Putin put him and Snowden in Siberia and took all his documentation. They can't leave.
Yes, Snowden dropped off the face of the earth. I mean, he was giving interviews. He was making.
Yeah. No, he's.
Last 2 years, you hear nothing from this guy.
And you'll never hear from him again. And, which I think you can. I mean, you touch kids, to me, you ain't worth it. And this guy ratting out our own country, forget about Snowden. No, but that's where they are. I mean, I always loved Putin. I met him once, twice, but I love he's charismatic, and I'm not political, and do what you want to do. But that's where he went. But subsequently, that's how I got out for justice, because they wanted me to stay. I had no lines. And the first scene we had was in a club in Brooklyn, and it's supposed to be a social club. And I'm at the front bar, and he walks by with his ponytail on and a badge hanging. And as he passes me, I say, "Hey, I see you still comb your hair like a girl." And he says, "Cut, cut, cut."
That was off script?
I just ad-lib. I had nothing to say. What am I going to do, stand there like a Mamluk?
Yeah.
So he says to me, "You can't say that to me." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, he gets the director." I said, "You're not supposed to cut either. You're doing that." He said, "What's my show? I'm producing it." He said, "You can't say that." I said, "Well, let me tell you something. Goodbye, going to the airport. You asked me to stay." He said, "What, would that make any sense?" I said, "It makes a lot of sense."
Yeah.
A cop that everybody knows he's from the neighborhood, has a ponytail, and he's coming into a club. What do you think he's going to say to you? He likes your hairstyle? They're going to make fun of you. They don't care about you. And I did that through the whole movie. And, but he got what unfortunately, he's now in Siberia. Never to be heard again. What's that?
They left that line in.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the line was in. A lot of lines were in that I just ad-libbed. I had no script. They paid me, I could say, they gave me like $15,000 to stay there for a week or 10 days, whatever it was. But anyway.
Anyway, we'll have one more here involved with your clothing line.
Oh, really?
I've been Googling to find Gianni's new clothing line, but I can't find anything. Is there a link yet?
There is a link, I have to say. It's called La Cosa Mia by Gianni. And anybody's listening to the show, it's definitely up and selling. And you'll see it in the neighborhood stores too. But I recommend going to the website, La Cosa Mia, like La Cosa Nostra. You may ever think you heard it before, but that means my thing. And it's by Gianni, me. And I'm very proud of it, actually. And,
you should put put a link on the podcast website, because we're going to get more questions.
Okay, we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, do that.
All right, well, time is up, and we want to thank all of you. And Pat and I are totally grateful. Number one, the book is still selling. It's 2.5 years later. And you keep selling in the interviews and the compliments and the demands. We'll fill them. And we'll talk to you next week.
Good night, Johnny.
Good night, Pat.
If you're feeling sad and lonely, there's a service I could render. I'm the one who loves you only. I could be so warm, so tender. Call me. Don't be afraid, you can call me. Maybe it's late, but just call me. Tell me and I'll be around. Or when it seems your friends desert you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Hollywood Godfather podcast. You can contact Gianni Russo, Patrick Picciarelli, or myself with your questions and comments through the contact section of our website, HollywoodGodfatherPodcast.com. Also call and leave us a message at 646-776-3038. Regarding Gianni's motivational speaking appearances, you can visit his website, GianniRusso.com. also visit Amazon.com for a listing of books Patrick Picciarelli has written. Remember to follow us on Instagram at Hollywood Godfather Podcast, as well as leave us a review on iTunes. To know what you like about what we're doing, you'd like to hear in the future, anything else you might suggest to improve our podcast. Most importantly, hit the subscribe button. Back next week with stories of the mob in Hollywood, as well as answers to your emails and voicemails. Good night.